Elderberry is the dark purple fruit of the European or black elder tree. Its scientific name is Sambucus nigra. The berries have a long history of traditional use, particularly for seasonal respiratory complaints such as colds and flu-like symptoms. Today, elderberry can be found in different commercial preparations, including syrups, lozenges, capsules, and extracts. The berries also contain naturally occurring plant compounds, including anthocyanins, which contribute to their deep purple color. These compounds are one reason elderberry has attracted scientific interest. But there is an important distinction between traditional use and proven medical treatment. So let's look at the potential benefits one by one. Elderberry is the dark purple fruit of the European or black elder tree. Its scientific name is Sambucus nigra. The berries have a long history of traditional use, particularly for seasonal respiratory complaints such as colds and flu-like symptoms. Today, elderberry can be found in different commercial preparations, including syrups, lozenges, capsules, and extracts. The berries also contain naturally occurring plant compounds, including anthocyanins, which contribute to their deep purple color. These compounds are one reason elderberry has attracted scientific interest. But there is an important distinction between traditional use and proven medical treatment. So let's look at the potential benefits one by one. The first and perhaps most researched potential benefit of elderberry involves cold symptoms. Some clinical studies have investigated whether elderberry preparations can help people experiencing upper respiratory symptoms. A number of studies have reported improvements in symptoms such as nasal congestion, headache, and other cold or flu-like complaints. A 2019 meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials found that elderberry supplementation was associated with reduced upper respiratory symptoms compared with placebo. However, later systematic reviews have described the overall evidence as uncertain because the number of high-quality clinical studies remains relatively small. So, elderberry may help support recovery from some respiratory symptoms, but more research is still needed to determine how reliable the effect is. The second potential benefit is respiratory wellness. Elderberry has traditionally been used during periods when people experience common respiratory illnesses. Research has focused particularly on acute upper respiratory infections. Some clinical studies suggest that certain elderberry preparations may reduce the duration or severity of respiratory symptoms. This is interesting because respiratory infections are among the most common reasons people seek seasonal remedies. But elderberry should be viewed as a potential supportive option rather than a replacement for medical care. If respiratory symptoms become severe, persist, or cause difficulty breathing, professional medical attention is important. The third potential benefit comes from what elderberries contain. Their deep purple color comes largely from natural pigments called anthocyanins. Anthocyanins belong to a larger group of plant compounds that have antioxidant activity. Elderberries also contain other naturally occurring compounds that researchers continue to investigate. This doesn't mean that elderberry automatically prevents disease. Instead, these compounds help explain why dark-colored berries are often studied in nutritional research. Adding a variety of colorful fruits to the diet can provide different plant compounds and nutrients. Another reason elderberry remains popular is its nutritional and botanical profile. Like other berries, elderberry contains naturally occurring plant compounds that can contribute to a varied diet. The fruit can therefore be part of a broader approach to healthy eating. However, a healthy lifestyle is not built around one berry or one supplement. A varied diet containing fruits, vegetables, whole grains, protein sources, and adequate fluids remains much more important. Elderberry can be one small part of that picture. Before moving on, there is something very important to know about elderberry. Not every part of the elder plant should be consumed in the same way. Raw or unripe elderberries, as well as the leaves and stems, contain compounds that can produce cyanide and can cause illness if consumed improperly. Properly prepared elderberry products are different from eating raw parts of the plant. This is why commercial products should be used according to their directions, and why preparation matters. If you're considering elderberry supplements, especially while taking medication or managing a health condition, talking with a healthcare professional is a sensible step. Now let's move from the dark berries of elderberry to a completely different plant, rosemary. Rosemary, scientifically known as Salvia rosmarinus, is an aromatic herb that has been used in cooking and traditional practices for centuries. Its strong fragrance comes from naturally occurring volatile compounds. Rosemary also contains compounds such as rosmaric acid, carnosic acid, and carnosol. Researchers have investigated these compounds for their antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and other biological activities. But one of the most interesting areas of human research involves the brain and cognitive performance. One of the most interesting areas of rosemary research is cognitive performance. Researchers have conducted small human studies examining whether rosemary may influence memory and mental performance. In one randomized, placebo-controlled study involving older adults, a low dose of dried rosemary was associated with an improvement in one measure of memory speed. Other studies have investigated rosemary water and rosemary aroma in healthy adults. Some have reported small effects on cognitive performance or alertness. However, these studies are relatively small, and the results should not be interpreted as proof that rosemary prevents memory disorders. Instead, they suggest an interesting area for further research. Another area scientists have explored is attention. A clinical study published in 2023 examined a rosemary containing drink and measures related to sustained attention. The researchers found effects on certain neural markers associated with attention, although the findings do not mean that rosemary is a proven treatment for attention problems. Other research has also explored rosemary aroma and cognitive performance. These findings are interesting, but they represent early research rather than a medical recommendation. For now, rosemary is best understood as a food herb with some intriguing research surrounding cognition and attention. Rosemary is also well known for its naturally occurring antioxidant compounds. Two compounds that receive particular attention are carnosic acid and carnosol. Rosmaric acid is another important compound found in rosemary. Laboratory and experimental research has investigated these substances for their antioxidant activity. This is one reason rosemary extracts are also used in food preservation. But once again, laboratory antioxidant activity does not automatically mean that eating rosemary will prevent a particular disease. It simply shows why scientists are interested in the plant's chemistry. Rosemary has also attracted attention because of compounds associated with antioxidant and anti-inflammatory activity. Researchers have studied rosemary extracts and individual compounds in laboratory and animal models. These studies suggest that rosemary compounds can interact with biological pathways related to oxidative stress and inflammation. But there is an important distinction. Evidence from laboratory or animal studies is not the same as evidence from human clinical trials. So rather than saying rosemary can treat an inflammatory disease, it is more accurate to say that its compounds are being investigated for their potential effects on inflammatory processes. Another traditional use of rosemary involves digestion. Rosemary has been used as a culinary herb for a very long time, and researchers have investigated its possible effects on gastrointestinal health. A review of rosemary research reported promising findings from experimental studies involving gastrointestinal oxidative stress and inflammation. However, much of this evidence comes from laboratory or animal research rather than large human clinical trials. That means we shouldn't describe rosemary as a treatment for stomach disease. Instead, rosemary can be viewed as a flavorful herb that may contribute plant compounds to the diet while researchers continue to investigate its possible digestive effects. Our final potential benefit is actually one of the simplest. Rosemary can make healthy foods more flavorful. It can be added to vegetables, potatoes, soups, meats, and other dishes. Using herbs and spices can help create more variety in meals without relying entirely on heavy sauces. Rosemary also provides naturally occurring plant compounds. So even though it shouldn't be presented as a miracle medicine, rosemary can have a useful place in a balanced diet. Sometimes the simplest benefit of a herb is that it makes nutritious food more enjoyable. So, what should we take away from the research on elderberry and rosemary? For elderberry, the most interesting human research currently focuses on upper respiratory symptoms. Some studies suggest that certain preparations may reduce the duration or severity of cold or flu-like symptoms. However, systematic reviews have noted that the evidence remains uncertain because there are relatively few high-quality trials. For rosemary, human studies have explored areas such as cognition, memory, attention, and mood. Some small trials have reported promising effects, but these findings are not enough to establish rosemary as a treatment for cognitive disorders. Meanwhile, many other claims surrounding rosemary come from laboratory or animal research. This is why understanding the type of evidence is so important. A promising laboratory finding is a reason for scientists to investigate further, not a guarantee of a medical benefit in humans. Both elderberry and rosemary demonstrate an interesting connection between traditional plant use and modern science. People have used these plants long before scientists began studying their individual compounds. Today, researchers can isolate compounds, examine biological activity, and conduct controlled human trials. But the scientific process takes time. A plant may contain dozens of compounds, and the effects can depend on the variety, preparation, concentration, and amount consumed. That's why one study cannot provide the final answer. Researchers need multiple studies, larger groups of participants, and consistent results before strong conclusions can be made. There are also some important safety considerations. With elderberry, raw or unripe berries and other parts of the elder plant should not be treated like ordinary ripe fruit because they can contain toxic compounds. Proper preparation matters. With rosemary, normal culinary use is generally very different from concentrated extracts or essential oils. More concentrated products can have different safety considerations, and allergic skin reactions have also been reported. If you're using herbal supplements, taking medication, or dealing with a health condition, it's wise to discuss them with a qualified healthcare professional. Herbal products can be useful additions to a healthy lifestyle, but using them responsibly is important. So, what have we learned? Elderberry and rosemary are two very different plants, but both have attracted scientific interest because of their naturally occurring compounds and long history of traditional use. Elderberry may help support recovery from some cold and flu-like symptoms, although more high-quality research is needed. Rosemary has been studied for cognitive performance, attention, antioxidant activity, digestive health, and other potential benefits. Some of these findings are promising. Others are still based mainly on laboratory or animal research. The important thing is to understand what the evidence actually tells us. Natural plants can have interesting biological properties, but that doesn't mean every traditional claim has been scientifically confirmed. Elderberry and rosemary can be part of a healthy lifestyle and balanced approach to wellness. And if you're dealing with a health problem that needs further treatment, persistent symptoms, or you're considering concentrated herbal supplements, consulting a qualified doctor or healthcare professional can help you choose the right approach for your individual situation. Use traditional herbal knowledge wisely, combine it with reliable scientific information, and remember that good health is built from many things, not just one plant. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more simple, research-based herbal content. Important note: elderberry may help support recovery from some cold and flu-like symptoms, while rosemary may provide plant compounds that support overall wellness and has been studied for cognitive and other potential benefits. For health problems that require further treatment, persistent symptoms, or when using concentrated herbal products, consider consulting a qualified doctor or healthcare professional for advice suited to your individual needs. Use herbal remedies wisely and make them part of a balanced and healthy lifestyle.